I'm coming off a nice, relaxing trip to Mexico. And what I wanted to do tonight was dedicate this stream to talking a little bit about the experience. And where I think this is going to be helpful is it'll be something where if you've never stayed at a resort or you're thinking about staying at this particular resort where we stayed, it's going to give you some information in terms of like what to expect. There, what I'm going to kind of preface with, and I'm gonna get there once we I'm gonna do this chronologically, but when we got there and checked in, there was kind of an interaction up front that was, I would say, not a positive interaction, and kind of almost set the tone for the rest of the trip. We didn't let it affect us. But kicking things off last week, we took a ride down from Albany, New York, down to LaGuardia to fly down to Mexico. And for us, we figured it would be kind of easier if we stayed at a hotel near LaGuardia Airport. So, and Cassie does all these arrangements. She's really good at this stuff. I'm actually pretty bad at, figuring out all these trip details and even making decisions about like rooms and all this stuff. I'm probably the worst person at making any kind of decision. I actually have a decision to make for dinner tomorrow night, and I've been on the fence about this for a few days, and it kind of relates to content. But as far as this Mexico trip, we took our drive down to LaGuardia. We stayed at a hotel called Voco, which is probably 10 or 15 minutes away from the hotel or from the airport. And what was interesting about this place is when we pulled in, there was kind of a valet parking system, and there was apparently this Chinese buffet that was right next door. It was jam packed. When I tell you, like we opted not to eat there. I actually can't even remember what we did for dinner. Oh, we stopped at the Suburban Diner in New Jersey. But um, when I tell you we made a mistake by doing that, we thought about it and we're like, okay, we're flying out. We're leaving to fly out at like 3 a.m. I think Chinese buffet is probably the worst thing we could possibly eat before we get on a plane. So we opted not to do that. But this place probably was legit, and it probably was a mistake. I think at some point I might want to go back there just for that buffet. But Sunday morning, our flight was very early, I think 6 or 7:20 something. And we got on our plane, we flew Southwest, kind of cramped. That's kind of what it is when you do Southwest. It's you're saving a little bit of money, but you gotta do the deal. We connected in Houston, had a little bit of a layover, had a little breakfast. The breakfast I tried to be as healthy as possible, even though we were going on vacation, to kind of throw caution to the wind. And I found a place that had some eggs and hash browns and a little bit of sausage, and that's healthy enough for me in an airport on vacation. We arrived in Cancun. I think it was kind of close to mid-afternoon. Um, and when you get to Cancun, this is kind of an FYI, you have to wait in the customs line. Now, when you have children, it kind of complicates it a little bit because there is a fast pass line that you can just do like a digital check-in, and they come in and they kind of do their little customs check, which could all be done digitally unless it flags you as you move through the thing. And a lot of people seem to be using that completely incorrectly, and it was really, really stupid. Or you wait in kind of these general population lines where there were quite a lot of people in front of us, and I think we probably were on that line a little bit over an hour. When you get to Mexico in the middle of an afternoon, expect to wait at the customs line. And when we got up to there, I was wearing a hat, so I had to take it off. And they verify your passport, they stamp it, and they let you through. Then you got to get your luggage, and then the actual customs officers have to check the luggage. Now, going through this check thing, I understand English isn't the first language there, but there's one woman who tells you, okay, you got to go over here, and then once you're over there, it's complete chaos. There's no lines. There's just these tables where you're supposed to slap your luggage onto, and these guys are supposed to check through it, I guess, for foreign materials. I think one of the things they want to kind of make sure isn't coming in is kind of agriculture, and things that might be poisonous or whatever. The types of health and safety things that border patrol is supposed to be doing. The guy who checked our bags couldn't. I mean, he was chit chatting with another officer, and the funny thing about it is, I know enough Spanish to actually understand. These guys were just chit chatting about girls that were in in the airport. This guy wasn't even checking through everything, and he was actually looking like this through our luggage, and it was just like, dude, like, and he was giving us a hard time for not putting it in the right spot. It was not a fun situation. And me, I kind of get a little bit tense when I travel. If you, I don't know if my brother's in the chat, but my wife and my brother will probably tell you that I'm tense all the time. And admittedly, I'll give you a little bit of that. But the travel kind of is one of those things I worry about a lot. Then you have all your luggage, you make your way through to where the taxis are. Now, Cassie also being excellent at planning this stuff ahead, she and this is a detail that's going to come back that's actually really funny. She booked us a kind of a transport from the airport to the resort, like a direct transport car service, kind of van service. Um, through a company called like something Canada, Air Canada or something. I don't remember the exact details. Um, but there's kind of a scam that goes on as you walk through that area where the taxis are. There's these excursion sales that on both sides as you walk through that portion of the terminal out into the real world. At that terminal, people come up to you and they'll say, "Where are you going?" And they'll try and they ask you which service, and it's kind of a scam because they want you to say the name of your service, and they say, "Oh yeah, we're with those people," and then they kind of bring you into a cab, and then you end up spending a lot of money. I almost actually fell for it because one guy came up to me and he clearly came out of like a car rental kiosk, and he seemed really nice, and I didn't realize that wasn't the end of the line. So he asked me and I said Canada, and he said, "Oh yeah, right over here." And what he would have done was probably try to sell me a car or a rental car or whatever it was. But Cassie kind of pulled me and we kept going. Um, and this is all pretty complicated when you have a 7-year old kid too, because for me, my sensations and my kind of spidey sense was kind of on high alert, and I'm kind of looking all over the place, kind of taking in a new place. Even though we did do Riviera Maya, Mexico, into the same airport back in 2015 for the DDP yoga retreat, and so actually, somebody in the chat's affirming. Greg says, "Need that car service leaving Cancun Airport. The scam's been going on forever." Yeah, and it's some honestly, I'm kind of naive and I don't really do much research. So thankfully, Cassie was there. She pulled me, and like I said, it's challenging to even have a 7-year-old kid. I'm dangerous enough to travel with, let alone a 7-year-old kid also. But we get up to the place, and the guy has our name on it's like in the television shows when the the driver has your name on a piece of paper, and Cassie went up to him and he kind of checked everything, checked our tickets and everything, and we were kind of off to the races. um the resort area, so where we stayed was a place called, I have to pull up my notes here, Iberostar Paraiso del Mar. And this Iberostar, right, there's actually a Del Mar and there's a beach, La Playa, right next door, that they're kind of connected. And that's another detail that kind of is going to weave back into the story here. This place is actually just down the shore from the DDP yoga retreat, El Dorado Royale, which is where we stayed back in 2015. Now, I'm mentioning the 2015 trip just to say I completely should have known about all of this, scammy business and stuff from that trip, because it's it's something that should stick with you. But again, I'm naive and I forget a lot of things, so I kind of forgot all about that. But the car service was really great. This Air Canada or whatever it was called, the driver was super nice. What they do is there's one person that takes you from the airport to the shuttle, and they want a tip for handling your luggage. And then there's the guy from the shuttle to the concierge at the hotel, and they want a tip for the luggage. Then the concierge wants a tip for the luggage, and then the guy who brings it to your room wants a tip for the luggage. So bring a few $5 bills if you're ever going to go down there, because you're going to have to hand off, especially if you have more than one or two bags. I think in Seinfeld they said it's $1 or $2 a bag. You gotta do the thing. If you're you're going to a resort, so you're not saving money. It's you kind of have to expect. I mean, one guy literally did the um, Home Alone 2. What's his name? The guy, that guy from Home Alone 2, where he wants the tip. when he gives them gum instead of that. But here's kind of where the meat of the story is, and then the rest of this is going to be kind of more recapping kind of the food aspect of it. I know I'm not a travel channel. I know a lot of people come in for the food, and I've kind of meandered for 10 minutes. I haven't even mentioned any food except for my crappy airport breakfast. But I will get into the food a little bit here as far as what we had in Mexico. So here's what happened. We check in with the front desk, and then they hand you off to a concierge who is supposed to take care of all of your needs, right? Now, Cassie was keen to what was going on, and I again didn't do all of my research, but I know she did tell me about this, and I kind of didn't remember for the purpose of the trip. And also, I was pretty over traveling by that point. I don't really do well on planes and things like that. Even though this time I actually slept on the plane a little bit, which I might come back to flight there toward the end of this if you remind me in the chat. Um, so we get to this concierge, and he's super nice, and he's kind of doing the thing, and he's telling us, oh, you with your package, you get three of our featured dinners, and I can help you book those right now if you want, um, you know, but also just so you know, we have our other resorts here, and this and that, and he's like, and then he starts telling about us excursions, and then he gets into booking the reservations with us. So the first thing he tells us is, because we're such good customers and we came through IHG, Cassie kind of has a membership through the IHG. She used to work for that hotel system. We'll actually give you an additional night of our dining package. Now, the way this resort is set up, actually, I can put it onto my screen right now. So the way this is set up, there's actually a bunch of different restaurants. I'm gonna try to. Some of these aren't even restaurants, but this Mercado buffet, and yeah, the Mercado buffet is essentially like where you go for breakfast or dinner, and then everything else, like this El Faro buffet, is like a lunch. It's only open for lunch, and then where am I? Whoa. Back to here, this El Rodizo Brazilian restaurant, it like when you look at the website, it kind of is not congruent with what you're gonna actually see when you get down there. It's really difficult to visualize. Like in preparing for this stream right now, going back and looking at this website, it still doesn't make sense to me. And I actually was around all this stuff. So anyway, you get these buffet dinners and that are completely free, or you can Greg, I'm going to get to this question in just a second. Greg's asking if we booked any offsite excursions, or you can book dinners in these places, and you get a certain number of credits toward those dinners. So he booked us for the Brazilian restaurant. That was the one we really wanted to try, and that was what we tried on our second night. The night that we arrived, we went to the buffet, and it turns out Noah loved the buffet, and I think we would have been happy for the most part if we would have stuck with the buffet. Not to say that the restaurants were bad. The Brazilian barbecue was very good. I'm kind of meandering. I got to get to the story here, and we'll get back to the food in a second. So he books us for the restaurants. He books us for 4 restaurants. We ended up canceling one of them, and I'll get back to that too. And then he goes into a major sales pitch. He starts saying, we have these excursions. You got to check this out. And he's pulling up a video on his phone. He's making sure to actually show it so that Noah can see it. He's like, there's these cliffs that you could dive in. Do you think you could dive into that cliff like that? And he's trying to engage actually Noah. It's kind of, I would say, sleazy sales tactics. And I'm over there. I just want to get to the room. And Cassie's patient, and she does her thing. And then he starts getting into this thing, and we have experience with this, where he says, well, we can give you a complimentary breakfast, and when you sit through the breakfast, they're going to talk about our timeshare and kind of this thing that you can invest in that gives you access to all of our different resorts here. This way, next time you come back, it'll be all nice and easier for you. I kind of shut down what he was talking about and wasn't really listening, but there was a point in the conversation where Cassie's pinching me under the table and like because I was short with the guy. I just wanted to get back to I wanted to get to the room. It was kind of a long amount of travel for me, and I want to get on with my life. I really don't care about what this guy's trying to sell. So she's there listening. But there was a point in the conversation where he kind of said, "Well, does any of this stuff sound good?" And Cassie's like, "Well, we're only here for a few days, and we're just trying to relax a little bit, and we have our son." And the guy's like, "Well, what's wrong with your son?" And like that kind of set off kind of alarms where we like immediately cut it off, and we had to get away from this guy. So we had our dinners booked, and we finally got away from this idiot and got back to our hotel. Now I say idiot, and I understand this is his job, and I'm empathetic to the fact that it's his job. And everybody has a hustle. I have a day job as well. I would hope that the services I provide are done so in a little bit more of a ethical way. But to involve the child, it definitely is something that kind of set me off in the wrong kind of way. But I wasn't gonna, the old me would ruin the trip, honestly. But in this case here, I didn't really take that to heart too much, um, just because the rest of the service so far had been really good, and when we got back to the room, we were actually pretty satisfied with the room. So the first night I mentioned we mainly did the buffet. I didn't do is it like the buffet area was it was very vast. There were a lot of people, and it's kind of like a cruise buffet or like a Disney buffet. If you're familiar with that, there's something for everybody, um, and everybody kind of gravitates toward kind of the same stations. So just walking mentally through what it was as far as the dinner buffet the first night, and I was starved. Um, I hadn't eaten since the breakfast in the morning, and that was kind of a lighter breakfast for me as far as if I'm traveling. And I think I actually was asleep on the plane for the peanut service. um, so I missed that as well. But I was pretty hungry, so when we finally did get to that buffet, I loaded up, but there was like one station where it was like I would say American food. They had French fries. I can't even actually remember going back. I can't even remember on that first night what was there because on the last night we did the buffet as well, and that was different. But then they had a carving station where they had like a pork thing and a few different grilled vegetables. And then as you move down, there was a pizza station. And the pizza actually was fairly good. It looks like they had kind of like some kind of electric oven. I wouldn't say wood fired because it wasn't very charred pizza. But the peculiar thing about the pizza on this buffet is they they always had some kind of like vegetable on top, like either just like a slice of tomato or like just like a grilled piece of zucchini or something. Like I didn't see any just straight up cheese pizza that entire time. And the pizzas were always labeled like margarita pizza, um, Mexican pizza, which I got a slice of the Mexican pizza, and it seemed to just have like fajitas on top and a cheese that wasn't as melty as mozzarella. So maybe like a Oaxacan cheese or something, but it was a little grittier. And every single time I saw pizza on one of these buffets, they had a Hawaiian style, loaded with little, like not even big chunks of pineapple, but little chunks of pineapple, and obviously ham. And that was funny to me because it seemed like that's kind of a popular thing. They want to make sure everybody has access to pineapple pizza at this buffet. So, um, to answer the question about whether we booked any offsite excursions, no, we didn't. I the whole purpose of this trip was actually to get away and just kind of get off the grind, like a winter break, and We didn't we I wasn't going for content, so I actually didn't film very much. I did film a little bit, like, for shorts, but, I didn't film for, like, actual content because I needed a little bit of a break, and I'm also 3 trips behind as far as the content goes here. Um, so moving along, then the next station was, like, a Mexican station, and this is kind of, to me, it seemed underlooked. Most of the food that I got from that Mexican station was incredible every single time, and I would say that's where I probably would focus if I ever went back to this particular resort. What I got to try was, like, stew there was, like, one night there was a stewed beef, one night there was, like, a stewed pork. There were always fried plantains with everything. There were always tortillas. They would actually make you, if you wanted, like, nachos or tacos, there was somebody standing there by the grill, and they were warming tortillas where you can just grab tortillas yourself and you can, assemble at your table, or you can actually have them do it for you. And then there was a station with all of the salsas, and they had one thing that was chopped red onion with habanero peppers, which I partook in quite a lot, and I really enjoyed that quite a lot myself. Um, but the Mexican food on this buffet was absolutely amazing. Then as you work your way around, I'm kind of ignoring a center island on, like, around the bend on it. There was, like, a poke station. I'm like, oh, cool. There's poke. I didn't get any on the first pass, and I went back to the table with my giant plate of food, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get poke when I go back." And Cassie's like, "I don't know. Like, they're not on ice, and they're just sitting there, and they're not really moving a lot." I'm like, as somebody who in 2015 came back with a parasite, I do not want to partake in something that might get me sick. So I didn't. Um, but the other station that I forgot about, it was American and actual Asian station. There was, like, General Tso's chicken, which were, like, whole thighs of chicken. They were deep fried. There were some egg roll type things. Um, none of which tasted very authentically Asian, but, like, kind of this, like, you're happy to eat it, and it's not going to ruin your day, kind of thing. The middle section is all, like, appetizer food, so, like, cheese boards, sliced hams, different charcuterie. They had, like, a panini station where they had assembled sandwiches, and you can kinda put more stuff on there. And as you worked your way around, it was all desserts. So round 1 was, like, all this, I loaded up a plate with all different things to try. Round 2 was, like, greatest hits, all the good things that were there. Kinda went back for those again, just for a couple nibbles. By then I was definitely full, and round 3 was dessert, and that got hit very hard. Um, I can't even remember what it was, but, like, cookies and, little breads, like conchas and things like that. And like Greg says here, there were definitely a lot of fruits, papaya, mango. Uh, but honestly, most of the fruits that were there, even on the breakfast bar, as far as what they were offering at this particular resort, were like the American type fruits, like oranges, apples, bananas. So nothing terribly exotic in that sense. Um, so that was dinner the first night. Then the next 4 days, as far as the structure of the days, were very cookie cutter, and it was amazing because I haven't taken a trip like this in a really long time. We've been kind of on the go for a lot of our trips for the most part. But either if I'm trying to film content, or we're trying to do stuff as a family and other things like that. Whereas this trip was just intended to be, we're just going to sit down and we're going to relax. And the first day we I think got started a little bit late after breakfast, and breakfast was the same buffet. And I'll come back to breakfast actually after I go through what the structure of the days were. Um, we didn't really have anywhere to sit, and what it seemed like happened. This is another thing to look out for at these all-inclusive resorts. There's usually stations, beach chairs lined up around the pools. Um, and this pool was like one big giant pool that went around the entire complex. Pretty neat actually. People go out there when the towel station opens, they'll go out, get towels, and they'll go claim a chair. So what we ended up figuring out after the first day when we got a less than optimal spot, um, was that, we kinda had to do the same thing, and we kinda I don't like just leaving stuff out at a place where I don't know. So Cassie would actually go down, get the chairs, and me and Noah would go back and get changed, and then go back and kind of trade off there. But so day one, we sat by the pool for pretty much the entire day. Um, I think we spent more time at the pool as the days progressed through the week. The first day I think was the least amount of time that we spent at the pool. But then when we got back, washed up, first night was dinner at the Brazilian barbecue. And I have a couple clips here. Let me see here. Damn. I actually pulled up my photo album from this. I don't want to kind of get right to the chase on that. But this is kind of a neat little thing where the one thing that all these places have are these little buffet type things, like appetizer spots where you can get your stuff. And that what essentially they want you to do, and this is true of any Brazilian barbecue that you go to, they're gonna put in your face these amazing looking appetizers and salads and things like that, and bowls of rice. They'll have like four different types of rice there for you, and the whole idea is for you to get full off of this stuff. I mean, these empanadas were probably over half a pound. And you could see like we fell for it. That's Cassie grabbing one, and I definitely grabbed one, and it was amazing. As far as the structure of the actual Brazilian barbecue, what it is they essentially come to you, and this is they come with the these swords, and here they had garlic bread, which I thought was actually pretty funny. Um, y- I've never gone to a Brazilian barbecue where one of the courses was garlic bread, but it was kind of a nice touch. I thought it was definitely funny that that's what they brought out. But I'll give you one that's a little bit more representative. Let me see if I can find a steak one. There we go. Yeah. No, Noah loved this. So they come to the table. They want to know if you want medium or rare. Like you could tell the one closer to the top there is a little bit more well done. uh, and toward the bottom, it's a little bit more rare. And it's pretty nice how, she'll cut it there right for you. I kind of wanted the nice, really rare one. Um, and that's kind of what it was. Uh, in that whole thing, there were a couple different types of sausages. There was a chicken, um, there was a pork rib, which was really good. Most of these were pretty plain. They give you some sauces to dunk it in, and put on your stuff. But this was a fun experience. The staff there was really nice. At the last thing that they come out with, they call beef gizzards, which is really funny because a gizzard is actually a particular organ in a chicken that I think they kind of lump together all of the kind of internal organ, like the offals, and they call the beef stuff the same thing. And I think what it was let me actually pull up the video. Sweetbreads is it's the thymus gland, and it seemed like they grilled it up, and Noah was actually brave enough to try it, whereas the rest of us kind of wussed out. But I'm not very big on organ meats. I it is what it is. We I'll load up on proteins left and right, but that was kind of the whole thing. Then the second day, we we ended up getting a spot literally right by the pool. And what I'm showing you here is me with my silly little hat, like kind of with a selfie right in front of the bar there, and I'm literally standing right outside of where I was sitting. So that little sign on the right with the 3.9 feet, my chair was literally like right under the frame there. And here I'm drinking Kraken and Diet Coke, which I'll get back to that in a second. There's a board here. Might as well do this. This board had all the drinks and stuff. Bartenders were down in this little well. You could see these little seats for the swim up pool. It was pretty awesome. And to get to the swim up pool, you had to walk through behind here, and then you can go into the swim up pool right there. Um, so um, this definitely is one of those things that I I'm kind of a shy person at a pool because I don't really swim. I actually don't swim at all. um, but you this it was only 4 feet high, so I was able to go in and enjoy my days at the pool. Go up, get to know the bartenders a little bit. They took good care of me. Um, and like Greg's saying here, actually, um, drank the Matacrack and rum. So on the first day, uh within by the end of by the end of the almost by noon, I had finished all the Kraken rum, and they weren't going to get a new bottle. But then I think the second day I saw them replenishing the bar, and there was definitely more that like I saw him take 2 bottles, he put one under the thing. um I think by the end of the trip, I think I might have actually at least contributed heavily toward finishing 3 bottles, to which I think um it's got to be that they're watered down or something, because I definitely don't have the tolerance to drink that much, and you should drink responsibly. Here I wasn't in any situation where I would be operating a vehicle, so there was no risk to me drinking all this stuff. But there were actually a few really weird beverages that were on the drink menu, which I thought was interesting. And for me, one thing I definitely didn't want to do too much on this trip, aside from like the foods, was just drink high sugar stuff. So I always kind of stick to Diet Coke with a spirit. Rum is kind of on the sweeter side. I probably was pushing it a little bit with my sugar intake as far as that went. But I did have a couple of different things. Like I think I had a mango daiquiri at one point. They didn't have the ability to make a blueberry daiquiri, but I did think it was funny that they could make a mango daiquiri. I had a tamarind daiquiri at one point. I think for the most part, as far as the mixed drinks, I stuck with rum. I was getting Cassie mojitos the entire time. Actually, one day she switched to caparinas, which is a different type of rum drink that is kind of like a mojito but doesn't have the mint. It's got a lot of citrusiness to it. At one point, she started to discern the difference between margaritas between the two different bartenders. Um, but this was a really cool thing. There was another drink on the menu. Like there were a couple of really weird drinks. The one weird one, it was called Indomable, and I've never seen anything like this. It had Campari, tequila, red wine, black pepper, bitters, and some juice, maybe orange juice. It sounded disgusting, and when I went up to order one, the guy actually told me he couldn't make it. Then the other bartender, somebody actually went up and ordered it, and he made it, but he didn't put any of the bitters or um, black pepper in because I think they didn't have it behind the well. I think that's why the guy didn't make it for me. Also, that probably is because it was disgusting. But there was another thing on there where it was called a Diablo. I think it was Margarita Diablo, where they make a margarita and they add red wine to it. Where I was like, what I would think Diablo would mean spicy, right? But it was not a spicy thing. In fact, when somebody did order a spicy drink, he literally just there was a little bottle of Tabasco there. He goes, if you want it spicy, make it spicy, and he tapped on the bottle. So they weren't. I guess the spicy margarita trend hasn't made it down to Mexico quite yet, but it was pretty interesting. Through the course of the trip on those 4 days, I did actually have a couple shots of mezcal, which was a lot of fun. I Yeah, I'd go up to the bar and I'd sit there and I'd look back at Cassie and be like, "All right." I'd be a couple ahead of her at all times. Um, but the last day, I think we definitely were caught up to each other as far as, um, what we were doing. Then that was day 1 with the Brazilian barbecue. Day 2, very similar structure. We had our breakfast. By then, we got to know the server, and this is kind of another funny thing. The Iberostar Paraiso del Mar and de la Playa are attached to each other, and you could actually walk from one to the other. And when you walk a certain direction, the to get from the rooms back to the lobby area, when you walk within the compound as opposed to outside the compound, outside is where the golf carts that take you around, like the trolleys, are, and that's kind of the fastest way to get around, but also there's vehicles on those roads, so it's also not as safe. But when you walk through the middle, you're never walking in a straight line, and there's always kind of a fork. So if you go one way, you kind of can end up in the property of the other one without even knowing it. As it turns out, most of the days that we went to the dining hall, um, we ended up in the La Playa place, and that became obvious to me when we were walking back to where the trolleys are. I said to Cassie, "This is like a mirror image of where we checked in, unless they move the tables around, but that's not possible because they'd have to move the entire concierge check-in station there." So she's like, "Oh yeah, that's because I think we're in the playa, the beach lobby." And I said, "Oh yeah, because that the scam desk is over there. We're like talking about that scam I mentioned earlier." So at breakfast, we got to know the guy who brought us our beverages and cleaned up our tables. Greg, I think this actually was Playa del Carmen. This was another frustrating thing for me. People keep asking me what part of Mexico were you in, and like signs said Playa del Carmen, they said Riviera Maya. That like it's like all of them. Like I don't know that there was a distinction between where we were. Um, but I think we were right in the pocket of Playa del Carmen, and actually just feet away from where we were staying, there's actually a beach. We actually didn't get to go to the beach at all. We kind of were comfortable where we were, so we didn't really do much outside of there. We got to know the breakfast guy, and we then the next day we got our prime seats there. Sat at the pool the entire day. Really relaxing day. And then at night we actually did a Mexican restaurant. I'm gonna see what I have here in terms of food to show you guys. This one, I got to be completely honest. I didn't have such a great experience with this one. Not that it was bad. I just didn't love what this was. So we got our mezcal, not nice. Like they want to give you shots everywhere you go, which is awesome. But again, you have these kind of you know, buffets with appetizer type stuff. Here's kind of these little sandwiches that they make, very very carb heavy stuff. Little empanadas and other things. Fried fish. You could see they want to load you up with all these salsas and all these other things. Here, I actually did a shot of mezcal. I posted this as a YouTube short. You could see me. This was the tacos. I basically tried two types of tacos at this place. Um, and looking back, tacos probably wasn't a great choice. But there wasn't really much on this menu. Um, that's to say, like, I don't want to say it was disappointing, but it wasn't as notable to me as the Brazilian barbecue. The food was very good, nothing really to complain about, and even those little buffet nibbles, they were very good as well. But that was definitely our. It was a week dinner, and then on the third day, third full day, we found this um Mercado area where they have a whole bunch of other stuff to do. They have this nice Mexico sign, which I used for the thumbnail today. You can see me and Noah here. We're doing our thing. Where's my sketcher? Oh well. And yeah, that was really fun. What was cool about that is they had kind of convenience stores that you can go to there, and this was a trolley ride away. Um, there was a place where you can get coffee where they had, complimentary cookies and pastries and stuff like that. Cassie got a coffee, I got a cookie. Um, then as you walk around, there's gift shops, and I got some candy where I can show you here what I did. If you're a fan of the silly snack reviews that I do here on YouTube Shorts, I actually got a little mixed bag of these, and I actually filmed them at the pool. So that's going to be sprinkled in over the next several months here on YouTube, as far as trying all these different Mexican candies. And I appreciate you sticking around. I know we're 40 minutes in here, and I've kind of talked a lot of different points with no real direct focus, but I'm going to land the plane very soon. And again, appreciate all of your attention as always, especially trying to do a little bit longer form type podcast type stuff where I don't have to do a lot of editing. Just because to me right now, that seems like the most fun. But yeah, in this place, I ended up trying a bunch of different. There was actually a taco stand, and I tried a couple tacos. Now, this taco stand was interesting. Huge counter, little like Mexican grandma lady making the tacos. So I tried a a beef one and a pork one, and these tacos were actually quite a lot better than the tacos I had at the restaurant the night before. The restaurant thing I think is just one of the. It's like a gimmick. It's one of those gimmick type things. They want you to think that you're getting kind of a more premium experience where all the food is different permutations of what you can have at the actual buffet. So another thing, like, don't pay extra when you go to these resorts for you know extra meals, because all the food comes from the same place. um and that kind of it couldn't have been more obvious than our third night. And let me actually see if I could pull that up. See, if I was thinking about it a little bit better, here's a picture of the taco place. If I was actually thinking about it a little bit better, I would have taken more video in landscape format. But yeah, so Cassie caught me kind of looking at the place here. I tried the flank steak and the spicy pork. You can see the little like this little Mexican grandma in the middle who's actually assembling all the tacos. Me kind of getting caught by surprise. Let's see here. Here's what the tacos looked like. They add a little bit of guac to it. They're pretty heavy handed with the onion and cilantro. But these were amazing. And that there could be a video you could see here. These are my little clips that I use in between interstitials. Here's actually Cassie getting me in the act. Another one. That's the one I wanted. Where she actually pick up a taco, eat taco. Noah talking to me. I always here's the bite. You can see what I do in my little gimmick. Hmm. I thought that was funny. She caught that. I didn't know she was recording. Actually, I kind of was on my own. But yeah, in that little market area, we actually ended up getting wrestling masks, which is something. If I go to Mexico, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm going to get a wrestling mask. But the third night was our last dinner. So here's kind of what happened. By the second night, when we saw what the Mexican food was, our fourth night was booked at a place that was the guy said, like, American fare, steaks, hamburgers, and things like that. And by the time we were at our fourth night, just given how popular the buffet was for us and how average the tacos were, we just decided to cancel that one, just to give people another a chance to eat somewhere. And also, we just didn't want to. I mean, we can get burgers anywhere here, and I can make very good burgers myself. I don't need to eat burgers in Mexico, so we canceled that. But the previous night, so the third night that we were there, we I guess this would be the fourth night, because first night was buffet, second night was Brazilian barbecue, third night was Mexican, the fourth night was what they call smokehouse, and that, let me see what I got here. Is a place called La Puerta. Yeah, here we go. This was another one of those things where it was like, really, this is what it is. I'll pull that up here. So you see here, there's a couple pieces of chicken. There's a little bit of pulled pork that was in that little bowl. Some brisket right there. There's this little thing is like a creamy corn, and then in the basket there were some, I think, very similar empanadas to the ones that were on the buffet, and there were some baked beans there, and there's a little piece of sausage, which is like here. Let me clear that out. So like this here is a sausage. This is chicken. This is pulled pork. This is brisket. So for three people, this food was pushing it as far as like what it was. Now the man actually, the man the waiter actually told us if there's anything we want more of, they'd be happy to bring it out. But it was one of those things where like they put you in these experiences first of all so that you probably tip a waiter a little bit more, um and so that you get a more limited portion of food as opposed to the buffet where you would actually probably load up. um I definitely ate plenty on this trip, but I don't feel like I overdid it. And as far as the breakfast buffet, the first day I'm like, "Oh my god, this breakfast buffet is amazing." They had eggs, they had sausage, they had bacon. But by the time you get to like the fourth or fifth day, like on the last day of it, like I was like, "Okay, I've honed in on the stuff that I actually like here, and I'm not going to touch the other stuff." But like there's only so much of this stuff I could eat. And that's coming from somebody like literally like Monday through Friday, my my breakfast, lunch, dinner are very regimented, and I don't really stray outside of it, especially now in the new year, just because I'm trying to kind of tighten up a little bit of stuff in my life here. But I given all that, I kind of got sick of the breakfast by the last day. Um, but this is all kind of to talk about, um, as far as the all inclusive. To me, the best deal was the actual buffet. So I would say if they try to make you pay extra for these buffet experiences, use caution. The other thing is try to understand that these settings are a little bit more intimate as opposed to like the buffet where like people are just all over each other, and um if you're like me, you're not a really too much of a people person. So the what I liked about the dinners were, for the most part, with the exception of the Mexican dinner, that place was really packed. But the Brazilian place was nice and spread out, and the staff was really nice. Even the barbecue, it was very open. In fact, the barbecue place is was converted from the lunch one of the lunch buffets that's closer to the pool. And Greg, who's lighting up the chat, thanks for being here, Greg. The was the last restaurant the best of the three in terms of the food at the barbecue place. It was very average barbecue. And I say that, in my area there's probably a handful of barbecue places, um none of which I would say is like outstanding, mind blowing, but are all very good. This food was probably like a step below what I can get back home. So not to say that I hated it, but it was very good. It was very serviceable, but It wasn't anything special. I actually feel like what was on the actual buffets was the more special food. Um, so then last day, we did breakfast, and we had enough time to get back to the hotel room and, get finished packing up and stuff. We had a little bit of a situation the night before we left where we ended up having to call the emergency doctor, and Noah's all good now, but he had a little bit of a ear infection that they had to treat him for, which we didn't want to let go beyond the trip because um, ear infection, airplanes, they don't sound like two things that mix very well. So we wanted to make sure we handled that. But the next day was just travel back. Um, when we got to back to Houston, the first thing that I did was hit the Chick-fil-A. We were in a part of the terminal. I could have walked to the more food option places where they had a Buffalo Wild Wings, which I was really considering. But for me, Chick-fil-A was enough. Um, Having not eaten very many vegetables over the previous few days, I definitely needed a salad, but I also needed a chicken sandwich, and I slammed an entire salad and um, a Chick-fil-A meal in the airport terminal there. Um, and the salad was actually very good. I spent, I think, close to $30 on Chick-fil-A on myself that night. And the chicken sandwich was, I got spicy and it wasn't very spicy. I don't think I've ever had a great Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, the salad actually was very good. They give you like a ranch dressing, and the grilled chicken actually is very, very, it's not dry like you would imagine. The salad has craisins and blueberries and apple slices and a whole bunch of stuff that really, I guess, maybe shouldn't be in a salad, but very tasty. I would highly recommend it. And a diet lemonade. um and then we got back and it was home sweet home. I think, you know, the the mistake I think we made though was our flight landed, I think, at 11:20, and we actually just decided to drive back up. But you got to make it through customs. You got to get your car. By the time we got home, I think it was 3:25 a.m. on the clock here, and we were pretty drained by the end of that. But that's what you sleep in for. We came back on um, Friday evening, so Saturday morning was a sleep in day. I think Sunday we ended up sleeping until like 9 or 10 o'clock, which is a lot later than we usually do. But it was a very good trip to Mexico. I would just say if you end up going to one of these places that is let me bring it back up here. Iberostar Del Mar, just kind of a buyer beware. They're going to try to sell you on whatever their timeshare business is. Um, you don't have to partake in any of that. Actually, I mentioned I didn't get back to this. So he said, well, if you sit through breakfast, well, if you come to breakfast, we'll give you a special breakfast, and it'll be all included. You won't have to pay anything, and we'll give you a little presentation of what we do. We actually fell for something like that. Um, I think when we were on a cruise, and um, what it ended up being was pretty gross breakfast. It was worse breakfast than what we actually was included in what we got. And we had to sit there through a presentation, and then they said, "Oh, we'll send your representative over." And like, representative? We don't have a representative. And they come and they try to sell you on something, and there's no exit. Like, you kind of have to sit there, and it's uncomfortable. And this would have been the same exact thing. And we ran into a family at the pool who I overheard them talking about Lake George, but it turns out they're not from Lake George. They were familiar with Lake George because of the Americade. There's a motorcycle event that happens every spring summer here in Lake George. The people were from Michigan, and the guy knew Lake George from that event. But they ended up sitting through the whole thing. They said it was like 3 hours, um, and that to me is yeah, I would not have been happy. But um, Greg, for the most part, it was a relaxing trip. So I appreciate your sentiment there. Um, I don't know why. I've noticed this too. I noticed you probably tried to put the Mexican flag emoji, and it's not coming up. I saw that a couple days ago when I put a Mexican flag emoji. Why do they give you these emojis if they don't work? You know what I mean? But that's the Mexico trip. There will be some shorts coming out with those snacks. I think there were 12 snacks in that bag, and there was actually another snack that we got that I got to try as well. Um, the next few weeks of live streams here, I'm very excited about. I have some guests lined up next week, which is the first week in March. I have the content bros from Egg Foo What, who are going to be on the podcast on Thursday night, and we're going to talk about kind of what they do over on their podcast. It's kind of a meta commentary on, um, pop culture, and they're also working their way through the Chinese menu. So that's coming up. The week after that, the 14th, I have Chef Michael Wheels Parisi, who's a stand-up comedian. He's Andrew Dice Clay's first best friend. He's a good buddy of mine, and he'll be on the podcast. And we're going to talk about what he's up to in Florida. He owns a coffee place called Parisi's Coffee, where he makes amazing coffee beverages, pastries. He's known as Chef to the Stars, the Cannoli King. So we're going to talk with him about some of the stuff he's doing. I'm really excited about it. That coincides with a special pastry holiday here in the Northeast, I guess worldwide. After that, we're going to get back to hot sauces. I have a bunch of hot sauces to try, and I have a really good topic around that, kind of going back to the sriracha stuff we talked about last month. And then the week after that, I have another guest lined up, Ashley Covelli from Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen, who's going to come on and talk to us about kind of what she does. She's one of the OG food bloggers back from 2006. Her blog has evolved throughout the years. So I'm really excited to bring her in, talk to her, and bring this content to you guys. And as Greg is mentioning here, we have a trip to Rochester, very, very quick trip. But I think I might have the opportunity to go and film a garbage plate. So it says, get the garbage plate. Rochester Red Wings have an alt garbage plate hat to add to your collection. All right. I mean, I have a lot of hats. I'm staring at a stack here. I got hats upstairs. I don't know if I'm going to get another hat, but we'll see. But I think so. Right now, I'm leaning either toward best chicken tenders in the world trademark or garbage plate, and I'm leaning garbage plate right as of right now. Maybe if you get somebody on social media to bully me, maybe it'll tip me over there. But I think the chances are good that it's going to be garbage plate. I found a place that actually lets you get 4 proteins, which I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But Greg, thanks a lot for sticking around. If you're the only one, but if you've watched this on the replay and enjoyed it, make sure you hit it with a like and make sure you're subscribed. I have some really amazing stuff coming. I even have edited videos, and like I said, 3 trips worth of vacations from 2023 to finish editing and getting up here for you guys. Again, excited about the content. Thanks a lot. And we will see you in the next one.